Yeah. So I learned something a couple years ago about nettle cordage. Once you've gathered your food nettles and those leftover ones shoot up and they get about yay tall, and you pick them in the fall when they're all dried out, and then you stick them in a big bucket with water and let them disintegrate, let them deteriorate in the water, and then you just fish the strands out. Wow. And weave them together that way. And nettle cordage used to be used for making fish nets and fishing because it turns invisible in the water. So it's like stealthy coyote fishing gear. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool. And it's very strong. I use it in my garden because
Thank you. Thank you. Bridget, can you share a little of your background with folks? The other teacher? Where you got your learning?
Okay.
She said, what do you mean?
Gosh. So I started out, I used to be an accountant and a Virgo. And then my Saturn returned. That sounds really woo-woo, but after 30-year mark, I became more of a Leo. It was like letting myself out of purgatory.
still hang out with her even though.
And I realized I was an accountant at the Evergreen State College, and there were all these really cool people coming to and telling me what they were doing, because it so happened I was in charge of the problem accounts and the incarcerated students and the Native American studies students. And they were studying plants, and they were traveling the world, maybe not 9 times over, but doing really cool things. And after 3 years of doing accounting at Evergreen, I realized I could do cool things too. I didn't have to be an accountant. And so the first thing that I wanted to do once I got out of my own self-imposed jail was get outside and hang out with some plants and get reconnected with my culture, because my mom had 1 foot on the res and 1 foot off the res, and she raised me on the hip off the res to give me a chance. Because in the 70s, and that's all I know about, my little slice of life there, but she, things were bad. And she wanted me to save me from that. So I actually had to go back and look for those teachings and find them on my own. And as a lot of people my age and who have been separated and from the culture have had to do. And so I started with plants and rebuilding my sense of who I am. I mean, ever since I was a young girl, I'd sit out in the field and hold bumblebees when they were sleeping. And, that's my happy place, is to get back out to the woods. And so, of course, as you work at Evergreen, you get something for free. You get 8 credits a quarter for $30, so I took whatever I wanted. And then I got bit by the science bug, and I had to quit my cushy state job and immerse myself in science. And what I studied was plant ecology and taxonomy and chemistry, and ended up with an environmental science degree with a focus on traditional ecological knowledge. And so the people that helped me along that path were Sue B.A. out at Skokomish, Elise Krohn, and Maria Elohemo. And my professors were awesome. At Evergreen, you also get to play with their instruments. They let you handle these $1 million instruments. So I got a job right out of college doing plant chemistry as a chemist, which was great. Kind of glamorous, and people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a chemist," and they're like, "Oh, wow, yeah, you must be smart." But it didn't make a difference. I wasn't doing anything that helped people, besides making really nice-smelling shampoo and tasty cookies. So, because it was mint. And after 3 years of hanging out with essential oils and knowing that pretty well, and if you have questions about essential oils, come to me. I have some resource books. It's fun. They're really helpful, but it's just one aspect of the plant where you kind of, I'm really good at killing plants and not so much at growing them, but, by the way. And so at that time I got involved with Canoe Journey and connected to my greater Native family and the people here. Now I have 37 first cousins, so I'm actually glad to live in the Northwest where I'm not related to anyone. Thank God, And so along the canoe journeys, I've learned a lot by talking to the elders, just sitting on the beach and talking to people who are waiting for the canoes to come in. And then there's a lot of teachings that come from being in the canoe, being on the water. And so I'd like to tip the hat to the seaweed people and the plant people that actually live in the water. Like the bull kelp, the Nereocystis luciana, is the major oxygen producer on the planet. I don't know if you guys know that, but that and eelgrass keeps our water oxygenated. This is where all earth comes, where all life comes from. Mm-hmm. And so I've become particularly enamored with that area. They call it nearshore habitat, but it's where the land and the sea hold each other. Mm-hmm. Isn't that a beautiful relationship? So I find a lot of life and a lot of plant knowledge there, where the land meets the sea, in the estuaries and the delta. Mm-hmm. And so now I find myself at the Nisqually Delta, working with the Nisqually tribe on their green infrastructure and compost and recycling and those kind of things we need to do to cool the planet and save the fish. Because who doesn't love fish? Right? Also some swimming people. So I know that's a really roundabout way to talk about my background, but the first teaching of the plant people is to listen, and so I tend to listen more than I talk. So thanks for putting me on the spot there. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to the Traditional Food Summit that's happening in May 13th and 14th at the Huatlabalt, Breath of Knowledge, the UW Longhouse there. I think I'll probably be presenting or talking a bit about recycling and compost and canoe journey, green team canoe journey stuff and how it helps tribes with their green infrastructure specifically. But thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Did you know it's a clue about flower remedies?
The flower essences?
Yes.
Right. So the science is actually catching up with this old tradition called flower essences, where you don't even have to kill the plant. You can take a quartz bowl with some purified water. The water is so precious, isn't it? It's the ultimate element, the ultimate. And the reason why it's important for its structures, you can dip a plant into a crystal bowl and magnify and copy its electromagnetic print into the water. Sometimes they preserve it with brandy. I don't think they need to do that. I think water is good on its own. But there are certain vibrational energies. If you can't go sit with the plants, if you're stuck as an urban native here in the I-5 corridor and you're separated from your tribe, as happens in their teachings, and you can't actually go sit with the plant, flower essences are a good way to tone and reshift your vibrational balance. And there are certain things that help you. Like if you find yourself taken down to your core over and over again, like a raging forest fire has come through and taken the rug right from out under your feet, and you can't just move forward, fireweed, flower essence is a good thing to help you get past that. And fireweed is, of course, the first plant that comes in after a fire and fixes the soil and the nitrogen in the soil so the rest of the plants can come back in. So that's what it does for you spiritually. It aligns that. They can prove it with science now. You can see the electromagnetic print and the infrared structure. But oftentimes when we are dealing with the rocks, we get that energy from rocks in our crystals, and you can actually feel it because it's amplified. With flowers, it's a little more subtle. And so, I encourage you to take a look at that. Essential oils and flower essences are different. Essential oils have certain chemistry makeup, whereas flower essences are more about vibration and electromagnetic and energy.
And the way they came about, you know that?
Nope.
Okay, this gentleman last name was Bach, B-A-C-H,
Oh.
in London, in England.
Yeah, I do know.
And he sat with flowers and picked up the vibrations and decided that this one is good for this and this one is good for that. So a lot of people are skeptical about it, but people that have used it think they work.
What works, works. And there's a lot of traditional knowledge that people are skeptical about, but that's been in use for thousands of years. So follow your heart, listen, take a chance to, sometimes people do that negative positive response where if you're holding nettle tea and you're like, is this good for me? Press down on my arm.
Kinesiology.
Right, there's a word for it, kinesiology. It's awesome. So, and then if I was holding a Snickers bar, my arm would go right down. I ate 5 of them yesterday, those little ones.
Unless you're reaching for the other.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
But I just want to add, we have a relative here, a couple relatives from Bruce Miller, Sylvier, and I just wanted to add, because there are some people here that are new to gathering plants, and one of the basic things that I have was taught, and I think that's important to carry on to our tradition and add, that these are our relatives, and the plants begin to work spiritually. And there's a lot of science now that proves that the energy is the foundation of all things, and you can't even see it. But all the cells are held together and make up a form through that energy. So that when you sit with a plant, you're able to feel that energy. And that energy is alive just like we are. So we give thanks for that. And we pray and we ask that when we're gathering the plants or even using the plants, that it work for whoever we're gathering that plant for. And there are many songs out there that we sing while we're gathering the plants. Did you want to add anything? Anyway, I just thought, I really think that that's the foundation that we all need to bring along as we're growing our families into this next generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a few years in Wyoming. I'm from the back east, but in Wyoming, we would go out and gather sage. We would look at the plant, the bush of sage, sometimes over our heads, and we would give thanks to that plant. But we would do that 7 times. 7 times. Why? 7 generations, our grandchildren. You need to not take everything of the plant. You take, and the first 7 you skip. You ask that plant. You ask that plant. And you give thanks to that plant. And the same thing, like you said, you listen to the spirit of the plant and it will tell you, I am yours. I am giving my life to help your life. Thank you.
Okay, brief announcement. Thank you, by the way. I prayed over the tea before I made it, just so you know, traditional Shutsi preparation prayer. So it has been prayed over. And that's super important. And it's what, it's part of our Native identity, that ceremony is involved, and honoring and respecting our relatives, all of them. Yahowt, this program has a workshop every month that we have prepared, one of which will be about gathering plants and doing some traditional style gathering and hanging out with them out in the woods once spring rolls around. And so, a general rule of thumb is that if there are 20 plants, you take 1. Like when I'm out with the nettle, I leave those grandmother plants alone. I don't pull them out by the root, some basic stuff. But we will be bringing in some other teachers as well to help with that. Because I kill plants. So, unfortunately, I probably would be better at that. But, so once we have your contact information, you can just check whether you want us to send you those other workshops that will be to follow. We'll also be going over permaculture, And we have a nonviolent direct action training for in cahoots with Idle No More and maybe Greenpeace and the Indigenous Environmental Network. In the works, we'll see what comes out of that. And some collaborative restoration projects. So that's just FYI.
And a lot of that direct action training is because the plants take care of us and we have to take care of them. And many of them are threatened right now. They're threatened because their habitat's being destroyed just like the animals, and so we have to stand up for them and we have to protect them, and we have to protect our gathering places from toxins and from development. And so, you know, we live in that time right now where, I don't know, for me, it's like they tell us that we always have to grow and expand, right, in this society. And my mind's always said, why? And I took economics and I still didn't understand it. It still didn't make sense to me. Like, it's just wrong. It's based on incorrect assumptions, right? And yeah, I always sat there thinking, this is really weird. Like, I can't deal with this. But I was glad I did it to learn what it's about. But, you know, it's just, we have to question those underlying assumptions of the society, right? Of why our lands are being destroyed. And so anyway, we're gonna go into that because there comes time where we have to protect our relatives. And so that's what some of that will be about.
Some of that. We're also interested in learning what people here would like to gather and learn about. Because the power's in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so we are gonna, everybody can come around and get your bag and get your tea. And then we'll have lunch. I think you can have, you can have 2 scoops.
Are they the same?
Yeah, they're both the same.
The one scoop?
Oh, we have more scoopers.
They're both the same.
They're both the same.
Thank you.